When I was a kid, I had a lot of friends who could speak Spanish. And they taught me some Spanish. One of my friends taught me this word, sal. It means salt in Spanish. If you want some salt, you say, pásame la sal. That means pass me the salt. Pásame la sal. And then later on, I learned that the very same word, sal, means something very different. It can mean get out. If you tell somebody, sal, you're saying get out. If you talk about something white to put on your food and make it taste better, and you say sal, you're talking about salt. And this is a story with both meanings of the word sal. It happened one day when a woman was going to make a meal for her family. She got out the pots and the pans. They didn't have a lot of money. She was going to make a simple meal. She was going to cook up some frijoles, beans. She was going to make some arroz, rice, and un poquito de pollo, a little bit of chicken. That's what she was going to cook. Just a little bit of chicken with some beans and some rice. A very simple meal, but she would make it taste good with good spices. But then the woman looked around in the kitchen and she realized she didn't have any salt. There was not even a little pinch of salt in the house. And everybody knows if you want to cook good food, you have to have at least a little bit of salt. So she went outside and she called to her little boy. He was kicking pebbles around on the street. She said to her little boy, "Corre a la tienda, cómprame sal." "Run down to the store," she said, "buy me some salt." She gave him a little bit of money. He put the money in his pocket and he ran away down the street. His mother shouted at him. She said, "Don't forget what I need. Cómprame sal. Buy me some salt." The little boy was afraid maybe he would forget what he was supposed to buy for his mother. So he started saying it to himself over and over again as he ran down the street. He ran along saying, "Sal, sal, 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 sal." But he tripped over a crack in the sidewalk and he fell down and he banged his knee on the cement. The poor boy sat there holding his leg, choking back the tears. And then finally he stood up so he could run again. But he couldn't remember the word he had been saying. When he fell down and hurt himself, the word flew right out of his mind. But then the boy noticed the door of a neighbor's house was open. He thought he would run over there and maybe the neighbors could help him. He ran to the neighbor's house and he stuck his head in the door. Just when the little boy poked his head into the neighbor's house, the neighbor's teenage daughter was in there. Estaba despidiendo a su novio con un beso. She was kissing her boyfriend goodbye. And the teenagers saw the little boy stick his head in the door. They said, "Niño entrometido, you nosy little boy, sal, sal." You know what they were telling him, don't you? Get out of here. But what was he supposed to buy for his mother? The little boy said, "Oh, Sal! When the teenagers heard the little boy repeat them like that, they thought the boy was making fun of them, and they were mad. The teenage boy walked over there. He grabbed the little boy by his arm and gave him a shaking. And he told that little boy, "No metas tu nariz." Mind your own business, he said. Don't stick your nose. That's nariz. Don't stick your nose into somebody else's business. No metas tu nariz. Mind your own business. And then he let the boy go. The boy ran from the house as fast as he could. And then he slowed down and he wanted to remember what he had been saying. But the only thing that came into his mind was the last thing he had heard. It was, "No metas tu nariz. Mind your own business." So he turned and ran away down the street, saying that over and over. "No metas tu nariz. Mind your own business. No metas tu nariz. Mind your own business." On the corner of the street, two men were arguing about something. And then they started shouting at each other. One of those men even reached out and grabbed the other man by the front of his shirt. A policeman was hurrying towards those two men to make sure they didn't start fighting. And when the policeman passed the little boy, he heard the little boy say, "No metas tu nariz. Mind your own business." That made the policeman mad. He grabbed the little boy by his arm and pulled the boy along with him. The policeman separated the two men who were arguing. And then he said to the little boy, "That's not what you should say to somebody who is trying to prevent a fight. You should have said, 'Que se separen pronto.' May they break it up right away." He let the boy go, and the boy ran from that policeman. And then the little boy slowed down. He wanted to remember what he had been saying, and the only thing that came into his mind was the last thing he had heard. It was, "Que se separen pronto. May they break up right away." So the boy turned and ran on down the street, saying it again and again. "Que se separen pronto. May they break up right away." In the next block, there was una iglesia, a church, and una boda. A wedding was ending at that church. The bride and the groom were coming out the door of the church, hand in hand, big smiles on their faces. And here came the little boy saying, "Que se separen pronto. May they break up right away." The newlyweds heard the boy. They were offended. The groom went over to the boy and told him, "That's a terrible thing to say at my wedding. You should be wishing us many happy years together. Remember, más vale dos juntos que uno solo. Two together is better than one." He meant two people who are happily married will be better off than somebody who's all alone and lonely. He let the boy go, and the boy ran away from that church. Quería recordar lo que estaba diciendo, pero lo único que le vino a la mente fue lo último que había oído. All he could remember was the last thing he had heard. It was, más vale dos juntos que uno solo. Two together is better than one. So the boy turned and ran down the street. He said it again and again. Más vale dos juntos que uno solo. Two together is better than one. Just beyond the church, there was un cementerio. A cemetery. Un entierro. Un funeral. Entraba al cementerio. A funeral was going into the cemetery. All of the dead man's relatives and friends were walking behind the coffin. They were crying and wiping their eyes. And the boy came running down the street saying, Más vale dos juntos que uno solo. Two together is better than one. They thought he was saying it would be better if two people died instead of one. One of the mourners from the funeral went over to the boy and told him, Don't say that. It's so sad that we have lost one of our friends. How can you say it would be better if it had been two of them? And he told the boy, at a funeral, you are supposed to say, Que descanse allí en paz para siempre. May he rest there in peace forever. He let the boy go, and the boy ran away from that cemetery. He wanted to remember what he had been saying. Lo único que le vino a la mente fue lo último que había oído. All that came to his mind was the last thing he had heard. Que descanse allí en paz para siempre. May he rest there in peace forever. The boy went running down the street. He said it again and again. Que descanse allí en paz para siempre. May he rest there in peace forever. At the end of that street, there was a little park with a well in it. A man came to the well with a bucket to get some water, and he dropped his bucket into the well. His friend tried to help him get the bucket out, y los dos se cayeron al pozo. Both of those men fell into the well. One of them was finally able to climb out of the well. His friend was still at the bottom of the well screaming for help. And here came the boy saying, Que descanse en paz para siempre. May he rest there in peace forever. The man who had gotten out of the well heard the boy. He said, Stop saying that. Es mi amigo en el pozo. I'll bet you know the word amigo, don't you? That's my friend in the well, he said. I have to get him out of there. And he made the little boy help him. Finally, they got the second man out of the well, and the first man told the little boy, You should have said, Ya salió uno, saquemos al otro. One is already out. Let's get the other one out. He was talking about himself and his friend. He let the boy go, and the boy ran away y quería recordar lo que ya estaba diciendo, y lo único que le vino a la mente fue lo último que había oído. He only remembered the last thing he had heard. Ya salió uno, saquemos al otro. One is already out. Let's get the other one out. se fue corriendo por la calle diciéndolo. He ran away saying it again and again. Ya salió uno, saquemos al otro. One is already out. Let's get the other one out. Oh, ¿con quién más en todo el mundo crees que se va a encontrar? Of all people in the world, who do you think he is going to meet up with? Un señor con un solo ojo. A one-eyed man. A man with only one eye. And the boy was saying, ya salió uno, saquemos al otro. One is already out. Let's get the other one out. The man said, that is an outrageous thing to say to me. If you have to say anything about it, you should say, gracias a Dios que le queda uno. Thank God you still have one left. He gave that boy a shaking, and he let the boy go. The boy ran and he ran, and then all he could remember was the last thing he heard. Gracias a Dios que le queda uno. Thank God you still have one left. He ran away down the street. He said it over and over. Gracias a Dios que le queda uno. Thank God you still have one left. The next house the boy came to had chickens in the yard. But dogs had gotten into the yard. La señora de la casa estaba sacando a los perros a escobazos. The woman who lived in that house was chasing the dogs out of her yard with a broom. But there was one little dog. Había un perrito muy vivo. There was a quick little dog. He kept jumping from one side to the other. He kept dodging around her broom. She couldn't get the last dog out of the yard. And here came the boy, and he was saying, gracias a Dios que le queda uno. Thank God you still have one left. The woman said, what are you saying? I must get this dog out of my yard. He might kill my chickens. And she told that little boy, ven acá, ayúdame. Come over here, she said, help me. Corre detrás del perrito. Run along behind that dog, she told him. She told him, grítale, holler at that dog. What do you think she's going to tell him to say to the dog? She said, you tell that little dog, sal, sal, sal. The boy stopped in his tracks. He said, sal. And he ran away down the street as fast as he could. Finally, he got to the store. He bought a little bit of salt. He took it home to his mother, and his mother said, gracias, hijo mío. You know what gracias means, don't you? Thank you. She said, ¿tuviste algún problema en el camino? Did you have any problem along the way? The little boy said, Mommy, tuve muchos. I had a lot of trouble, Mom. He said, tell me, Mom, why do people get mad so easily? His mother laughed at him. She said, la gente no se enoja fácil. People don't get mad angrily, she said. And she told him, now go on outside and play. Sal a jugar, sal. The little boy plugged up his ears. He said, ay, por favor, mami, no vuelvas a decir esta palabra. Don't say that word again, Mom. And he turned and he ran out of the house. And his mother never did find out why her little boy couldn't stand to hear the word silence.